Hi and hello, welcome back here in my studio. Today I have a special lesson, a fun lesson, a seasonal lesson. I show you step by step how to draw a beautiful spring river with water reflections, beautiful trees with flowers. I really have enjoyed drawing this for my members in Animal Art Club. They get that as a fun and seasonal drawing lesson. I want to show you that here in a time lapse, and I explain every step I do. Maybe you try it out. Take some pastel pencils. They don't have to be the same colors. It just should be fun, and you should enjoy the drawing process, the layering, blending, building up this beautiful landscape scene. I hope you enjoy it. And before we dive in, I have here a link to the beginner's guide. You can download that. You find then everything about starting drawing with pastels, information, what material you need and what's important. So let's get started. Let's start sketching in here a bit the river. Here I will draw a bit of a field, sketch in here with a green, just the outline a bit of our spring river. And then I start above with the subjects that are more far away. They are placed on top of the drawing. Let's add here a bit ivory around the sun. So here is a light area in the sky. We have here a bit sunshine. So I plot in a bit soft pastel pigment in this light yellow and put in with a Capothello Stabilo pencil a bit more yellow pigment around and blend it then. Then let's bring in some beautiful colors. This is a turquoise, so a petrol, a green turquoise. Bring that in around the sun, and then I use a soft blending tool such a sponge and blend that around very gently and plot in a bit dark green here and blend it with the soft blending tool. I go over with a paper stamp, so you can use different blending tools, make that blurry, create soft transitions, cotton swabs or the sponges, paper stamps. Here I add a white, that we have here a brilliant sun with a soft pastel white. The pastel sticks are softer and you can blend them easily. It's then so more like painting, and with the pastel pencils you can more draw in details. I add here some black strokes for so a tree structure where we then let overlap the spring and trees. The subjects that are more far away are smaller, and they are also placed above in the drawing, and subjects that are more in front of us are overlapping. Here I add with white a bit of white blossoms on the tree, so with different beautiful colors. You see these spring trees with the blossoms with a lot of flowers on top of them in beautiful colors. I use here some violets and pinks, and then I draw little circles and dots. Circles with violet and pink using pastel pencils. It's a tip also to sharpen the pastel pencils, the front part with the knife, and then I can here add so teeny tiny little white dots and flying loose little petals of the blossom. It looks a bit like snow, but you know when the wind is blowing in the spring. And then these trees lose their blossoms, and it looks so beautiful here in that drawing. Add a pink pastel pencil then and do the same here on the left side, adding a bit white, brightening up the pink to create a light pink. Go over with white and blend it, and then draw some little dots with a pink pastel pencil. Here I'm using the Pitt pastel pencils, my absolute favorite pastel pencils. You see also links to the material in the description below. Around I add with a very little pressure a little bit of a light green and blend it then with a cotton swab. So adding then here also these loose flying little blossoms, creating a more dense structure, sharpening. So here I use a stick. With the knife I put a little bit of pigment, of white pigment down. This is also an option to create that faster, that you don't have to draw the dots all the time. Bringing in here a bit more dots with the white Capothello. These blossoms, these little flowers, petals on the tree, and add a bit contrast and depth with some more pink dots and add some branches then on top. I like details, so also in a painterly style, bring in details and add a bit shadow on the tree trunk and shadow also at the bottom here, and then some fine lines for the wood here behind, some green tones, some bushes, or far away subjects are blurry and more in front of us. Trees or subjects are a little bit more detailed, bringing here the grass and wood that is so far away with some green tones in, and this is then blurry, so that there I blend a bit over with the paper stamp. Here I add a bit more of that white and add some sun rays here with a little pressure in the directions downwards. Blend then gently over with a blending stamp and a bit of blue and make that a bit blurry and create a soft magical look with that sunlight shining down. Here I add then an overlapping tree. I like that style to put in front a little bit of a larger subject. That creates depth, so when you let the elements that are in front of you overlap the background, and here draw a tree trunk with some details here in black, white, brown, different colors to create here that perspective view. Here let's add a light green meadow with a yellow green soft pastel pencil, and also a bit leaf green, middle green. So I mix here the pit pastel pencils with the Capothellos. I like to use also the Capothellos to have a rich color abrasion, a very nice opaque color abrasion, because they are softer and you have then more pastel pigment on the paper for this painting purpose. They are great for animal portraits. I prefer to use the pit pastel pencils because they are harder and you can achieve finer details because the lid is harder, and you can then draw fine lines with the pit pastel pencils. Here I draw then dark green in and blend everything with the paper stamp, make it softer, make it a bit blurry, and then add contrast, more depth with darker values. Here with the black on the river banks. The river banks are always darker. I use here the black, and then you create that 3D effect. Here then go over with some more green. Also the same, like building up furry layers. Grass is here the same, building it up with many little strokes and lines, and experiment with pressure. For thicker lines you can use more pressure, for thinner lines less pressure, and so I go here over with another light green. And then I go in with a very light green for highlights, create depth with a lot of lines. So drawing and painting with the pastels is really fun because you can then blend easily together. And if you're working on high quality pastel paper like the pastel matte paper from Clairefontaine, that's my absolute favorite pastel paper, then you are able to build up many layers, and you can draw easily here with light over dark, what is then really fun. To save your times and nerves, I highly recommend to invest in high quality pastel paper. You can imagine so that this paper has so little mountains and valleys, and with each layer you apply color, you apply pastel pigment in between the mountains and valleys. There is space between, and you put in pastel pencils there, and you draw in thin layers, and with each layer you put in more and more pastel pigment. And at some point then, depending, did you apply a thick layer, did you apply a thin layer, at some point then the space is full of pastel pigment, and then you cannot draw any more layers on top of it. That means when the space is full of pastel pigment, that your paper is saturated. And the pastel matte paper really allows a lot. If you're drawing on other pastel paper like watercolor paper or other pastel paper, they are not, it's more for painting purpose, not for the detailed drawing purpose, and then you will end up frustrating because you cannot draw all the layers. It is really so much fun to draw on the pastel matte paper. It's a bit more expensive, but it's so worth it. A new paper is the Casamite and Velvet. The important is the Velvet. That's also great. So here I'm applying a lot of different colors in the river. There are so many reflections in the water, and so we don't use only blue. We bring in the reflected trees, the sun, the sky in blue, then the green tones of the background here, the wood, the trees, and pinks and violets for the reflections where the trees mirrors in the water. And then I blend so horizontal from left to the right. In the middle, the sunlight is the brightest part, and there I have added a lot of white, and when you then blend from the left to the right, you create that water effect. And also draw the grasses here a little bit, so downwards, bringing in some reflections of the grass when the grass mirrors here, and blend over gently, add a bit of black for black reflections and shadows. So here then when you go over with white for some little waves in the water along the river banks, you create that glassy, glossy look of water. That's so fun to draw a beautiful river. Here also add some details into the reflections, the trees in the water, and add some white lines over it. Yes, and add all different colors, a bit brown here, a bit green on the edges, pinks. Darken it down here a little bit on the left side. Sometimes I also prefer to just blend over with the finger. Make sure that your fingers are clean when you blend with the finger, that you don't bring any oil or wax into the portrait. And then bring in also some little details in brown here. Of course, the more details you bring in, the more realistic your drawing looks like. So it depends on your style, what you would like to achieve with your artwork. Would you like to do it a bit more painterly? This is just so a fun exercise. It's not from a photo. Just draw a little bit of a landscape, how you would like to do it. You can draw more trees, you can draw more another version of the river. Just make it fun. You can create gift cards out of it, greeting cards. You can just use it for practicing blending your pencils, practicing drawing. So a fun and colorful spring river, that's really great. Just not always draw the realistic animals. I love drawing the realistic animals, but they take time, and sometimes it's nice to have a quick result and just sit down and draw so a beautiful colorful spring river. The more detailed you make it, the more realistic it is, but it's also nice to do it a little bit in a painterly style. Paint a bit with your pastel pencils, use some sticks, experiment with the pastel sticks, with blending. Then below here I let some grasses and plants overlap the river to create more depth and this perspective view, to put some large plants and flowers in front here. That creates then more more depth into your drawing, so you can work with the small details and blurry details far away, and then large subjects in front of us that are really at the bottom of the drawing. Also, when you draw mountains, for example, in a landscape, the far away mountains are always lighter, and also so in blue tones, light blue blurry tones, and the more nearer the mountains are, the darker they. So also think about that. Here I add some really large flowers. They are so in front of us, some beautiful spring flowers. Just draw. I don't draw them really very detailed, just some dots. Draw a bit in that loose style, a bit working with the softer pastel pencils, and just have fun. Draw flowers you like, and we can also draw other flowers, just make them smaller in front, let them overlap the river, so to create that 3D effect, that larger subjects overlap the ones behind, and draw the largest subjects then at the bottom of your drawing. Here I blend over with a paper stamp, make it blurry, or better that the paper is not shining through. Add some highlights here and there to create more contrast. Always use a mid-tone, a dark and a highlight at least. Better more different colors and different values for sure. Add some little details on these white flowers and some more pinks and white detailed little parts here in that meadow. Yes, and then the spring river is nearly finished. Just some more adjustments here and there. Have a look, where can you add something then finally with a light green or some more highlights here and there. But then we are coming to an end, and finally I always add these little details. Check if you can add here and there something, here with a bit ochre color, and find little white dots. You know I like details, I always want to refine everything. Have a look, steps a bit away and have a look to it then finally, and see where you can add something. Where can you add some fine grasses with some different colors, again more details. The more time you invest with details, the finer your drawing will be then. Let's add a bit shadow here below, and maybe some. Finally, I then have added here some so larger blossoms that looks like they are flying downwards. It's from the large tree on top that we don't see. The wind also is blowing larger petals downwards, so it looks a bit like snow, but gives that magical touch to that spring river drawing then finally. And yes, add pinks, add whites and some highlights there. That's really fun. You can also skip them if you don't like them. And then finally I also let here some branches overlap. That creates again more depth, because that large tree on top has here these larger branches that comes from above, and because they are so large and long, you create that illusion that they are really in front of you. They are not so far away, they are nearer. And I add there also some so little leaves here and let them overlap. This is an interesting look, because it gives you again a bit more depth to your drawing, that you let large branches just overlapping the upper edge of the drawing. And yes, let them overlap, and then they are just a part of that large tree that we don't see here a lot, just a part of it coming into the drawing. That makes it a bit interesting. So just draw a little bit of that large tree on the side, on the right side here, above the river. Okay, so I add some more highlights here and there with the white, and bring in a bit of darks then too. Add again more contrast, more 3D effect with the black. Bringing in some shadows, you know, always use shadows, use lights, use a nice combination of shadows and lights, and also the details in your drawing. Here and there I add a bit more black here. Finally, some final details. And it's finished. Okay, how did you like that? Was that fun? Could you achieve a beautiful river, spring river, if you have tried it? Pop below in the comments how you like that, and if you have questions, just ask. I'm happy to answer. Okay, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I would love to see you then soon in the next video. Here you find the link to the waitlist for my online drawing school Animal Art Club, our amazing community, where I teach you how to draw animal portraits with pastels. And watch here the next video. See you soon and enjoy drawing. Bye!